Welcome to Modern Anarchy, the podcast featuring real conversations with conscious objectors to the status quo. I'm your host, Nicole.
I tried to keep her quiet, but she's screaming outside of me. I tried to keep her hiding, oh, shut up. I tried to keep her quiet, but she's a wild, wild woman.
Hello! On today's episode, we have the founder of the Mother Tree Foundation, Natalie, join me for a conversation all about taking our own advice. And it's funny that that was the concept, or I guess main theme behind this episode, because I recorded this episode about, a month ago, and now I'm editing it here and thinking, damn, my own advice hits really hard for where I'm at right now mentally with the stress of school and applications and all the fun things that being a graduate student entails. And so here I am taking my own medicine, listening back to this conversation and thinking, damn, these are important things to be focusing on and building, and things that, I forget all the time. And so I really, really enjoyed getting to have this conversation with Natalie, and it's clear that the two of us together were just bouncing off ideas about what does it mean to actually love yourself, and not in a hippie woo-woo bullshit way. What does it mean to actually love the full, messy, beautiful, dark, and complex reality that we are as humans? And so, yeah, everyone, you're gonna love this episode. And with that, I also started a Patreon. Everyone keeps telling me that I should have done this from the beginning, and I'm here, people. I'm doing it now. So many people want to move podcasts behind paywalls, which is obviously completely against my ethical values, right? I mean, we're not going to put a resource behind the need to pay. So for me, I figured, hey, let's start this Patreon. Let's get this moving, this movement here of people who are able to support this sort of work and the benefit that comes from having a space to talk about these conversations. And I'm going to trust in the universe and all the people that I know are listening to this podcast every week and tell me and send me DMs and messages that they feel like they've just learned so much and benefited so much from this podcast that, yeah, together we can do this. We can bring the change. We can make society a better place that is open to exploring different perspectives and the diversity of the human experience. So I'm really excited to be on this journey with all of you and all the listeners that make this a reality. Yeah, I hope all of y'all enjoy today's episode and tune in.
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh,
yeah.
And here's the cat.
How cute. Hi.
Yeah, here's the fat cat. I have this little bird feeder over here where I usually there's a ton of seeds in there, and then usually there's a bunch of birds, so she loves to hang out over here with me.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I love cats.
Yeah. Do you have any
Hi,
animals?
little one. I see your little head.
Yeah.
No, I really want a dog though.
Yeah.
Very badly. So hopefully
Yeah.
soon.
Dogs are so hard though. They're like little babies.
They are, but oh God, they're just so sweet.
Mhm.
I love dogs. I love cats too. I've had good experiences with cats.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to love them, because some can be a little ruthless.
Yes. Yeah, as I have scratches on my arm. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just so much easier. That's the hard part. But dogs have such a positive energy to them. They wake up, they're happy, they want to go outside, they want to play in this. It's just such an exuberance that cats don't always usually have.
Yeah,
they're
that's why I love dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very
it feels
different.
like a partner. You have a partner, you can go for a walk with them, you can run with them, you can road trip with them. So it just feels like if you're alone, you have a buddy, which I just like. That's
true. That's so true. Yeah, Fat Cat's very limited in our buddy mentality. She's like a stay-at-home roommate that doesn't have a job, I come home and she's always there.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, but I love her. I love her dearly. Ugh. How are you doing this morning?
Good.
Yeah.
For Monday.
Where are you
Mondays
located?
are always chaos. I'm in Yuma, Arizona currently.
Oh, nice.
Where are you?
Chicago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Is it cold out there where you're at? Is there snow? I don't really know.
No. So Yuma is desert. We're right on the border of Mexico.
Yeah.
So we're south Arizona, a desert, much like Tucson. So we don't get like any of that sort of weather. It's, I think it's like 45 to 50s in the morning and then 73 in the daytime. Yeah.
Damn.
Very different than Chicago, which is freezing, wind chill.
Yes,
all that stuff.
yes,
oh my God.
yes. I wake up going to clinicals and it's 1 degree, you know, or feels like 1 degree, and you're just like, I don't think I belong here. I don't think this is right, actually.
Yeah. I grew up in Massachusetts, and so I went to college out there, and
so you know.
I remember a few mornings like walking to class in the winter, and it was just fucking freezing and so cold, and then the wind chill.
Yeah.
And in my face one day, I remember my face was just frozen. I was like, why am I I'm not doing this. And so right like after college I moved to California, and now I'm in Arizona, and I'm like,
never
keep me
again.
in the warm states. I can't do those intense winters. At least like maybe if I had a garage, you know?
Yeah, it'd be easier.
Or an automatic start, but like having to walk out to your cold car, like to go to the gym in the morning,
it just makes everything harder.
And it's like a half hour, but like you literally have to get up a half hour earlier to go to the gym in the morning.
Sure. Yeah, let me tell you. Yeah, I literally drove over here, parked in a spot, realized I couldn't even get out of the spot to back up a little bit because there was too much snow. And then I was like, oh shit, now I'm not going to be able to get my car out when I need to leave. So I spent like 20 minutes scraping out the snow so that it could roll out to find a new parking spot before this call. So like, yes, I know. And then I tried to think of the like, did you ever watch that Goop episode where they do like cold meditation and they're just like walking out in the snow, laying out in the snow, and like like I guess meditation in the snow, and like, you know, the people who do ice diving under the I don't have the language to properly describe this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So then
it's a like cold therapy.
Yes. So then I'm like walking out of the house this morning going, okay, if they can do it, how can I do it every morning when I walk to the car, right? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out. All
about the breathing in your mind.
Yep, that's what I do. I try to take like, I notice like the second I walk outside when it's cold, I'm like hunched over trying to like keep in, and then I have to take like a very deep breath to try and like relax my body in the cold.
You can feel that, Oh,
I know.
Me too.
And I've realized that if I do not maintain eye contact with her, she gets grumpy and she'll hit me when I'm recording podcasts. Yeah, I swear to God. I this is why you want a dog. This is because she is like she's like a partner. She's like, pay attention
to me. Exactly. But only when I want it.
Exactly.
That's cats.
Slightly toxic relationship, but it's cool. I am her her lover. It's fine. Yeah. So is there anything do you have any questions for me, the podcast, recording?
No, it looks like a really amazing podcast, though. I just love like your explanation of it and what you have going on. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited. And I love your like colors in your logo. It's really like, I just really like the vibe.
That's
good vibes all around.
So great, because I did it all myself. So that always feels nice to hear that like someone else is like, yeah, this is good.
You did it all by yourself?
Yes. And then I do all the editing and I do all the production and releasing. I do all of it by myself while in grad school. So it's crazy. It's crazy, but I love it. I love it. It's changing me as a human to be talking to like different people that I never thought I would have been connecting with, you know, and trying to expand my own level of consciousness. So it's fun. But yes, a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Good for you. I had a podcast for a little bit with a friend, and it just kind of fell off because we were like a little bit all over the place on it. But
sure.
Yeah, I remember how much work it was. Like she did a lot of the editing and stuff, but it was a lot. So
what was it about?
It was called Unpack the Pursuit. It was just talking about like just basically people's life changes or stuff that they've been through and like the reason behind it, and just getting through the hard stuff. Ooh. And really talking about like vulnerabilities and all of that.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds very similar kind of to what I
Yeah.
try to aim mine to do is like, how have you become the person you are today? What struggles have you gone through? What lessons have you learned in the journey of like becoming your authentic self? Because so many societal things are trying to stop us from doing that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just relating things back to like old patterns and like getting through them, or being really afraid to do something and then doing something, and then you're like in this amazing place and just inspiring other people to like break free and to follow everything that is going on out there and all the societal norms.
Exactly. Yes. I love that. And I love that energy. I'm sorry you didn't keep going with it. I mean, that sounds like such a good project, but I recognize it's a lot of work.
So hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So why did you start that podcast though?
It was with a friend I grew up with, and we still talk to, like, we're still really good friends. And I was going through, we hadn't really stayed connected after college.
Sure.
And I was going through a really tough period in my life. I was with my ex-boyfriend who just really wasn't that. It was a very toxic relationship. And I had moved from California with all of my friends to Yuma and didn't like have anybody. And I was just like, I really feel like I need to reach out to Molly. Like, she was just always there to talk to.
Yeah.
And I reached out to her and we just started having these really incredible conversations. And I was realizing things about myself. And I'm so lonely. I'm craving this person who's like not good for me. I'm afraid to do these things. And it was just good to like be vulnerable and come to those hard realizations with somebody. And I was just like, I feel like these are such important conversations to have, because so many of us are just, we're all going through things, you know? And it's like, from an outside perspective, things might look good, but what's happening inward could be really bad and detrimental.
Absolutely.
And when we don't talk about them, then you have people just out there committing suicide, and you see the rates like that have gone up. And like, I think that's honestly people so lonely and can't talk about their problems or don't have anybody that's there, that it just all culminates and that's what happens.
I know. I saw the Miss America. Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. Someone had posted this video of her like smiling in this like fashion shoot and being all bubbly and happy. And someone said, this is what depression can also look like. Yeah. Just like, wow, exactly what you're talking about. Where like from the surface, you're like, wow, here's this beautiful human doing everything that she wants in the world. And then you hear about what happened and how do you weigh that? And I think what you're talking about is so spot on, where it's just, there's so much in here internally going on that we might not be seeing from the outside, and how valuable it is to have the opportunity to share that with other people, whether it be in therapy or friends, all these different connections that we have. And I'm thinking about like you in that space between, having a toxic relationship that might be sparking up a lot of, I don't even know, fears, anxieties, different pieces. And then having this completely opposite relationship, with another person who's inspiring you to be more vulnerable and to be yourself. And like, wow, the difference between those two relationships.
And just like, having somebody to talk to and feeling authentic. Because I mean, when you're just portraying yourself out to the world as the opposite of what you're going through, you're going to feel lost when you're not doing I don't know, that's how I feel. Like when I feel like I'm presenting myself as like, if I walk into something and I'm like, I have to put on a face right now, like I have to be happy even though I'm not, I come back and I'm even more unhappier because I'm just like not showing up what's really going on.
Fully. Yeah, it's almost like you have to disconnect and dissociate from yourself to do some sort of fake, production of who you are. And so, I mean, that is naturally going to create a lot of dysregulation between your sense of self.
Yeah. And then you don't, like, I just feel like then you don't really know who you are. And then it gets even more confusing. And then the depression, like, because I've been through this, so I know I'm like, you get even so disconnected that you come back and you're like, oh my God. And it dives you to an even deeper hole than what you were already in.
Yeah. What do you feel like was pressuring you into that space? Really, this relationship? Were there other pieces that were going on that kind of like compounded?
I feel like for me, there was a lot of things. Like, I think the major thing was that I just felt very disconnected
Mm.
from myself and that I wasn't really following my heart and what was good for me and what I needed. And also, I wasn't like really living my purpose. I feel like that's a big thing too,
Mm.
you know, when you're just like, what am I doing with my life? That's for me, it's like, what am I doing to like help and inspire other people?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if I'm not doing that, I feel down.
Mm.
And so I think it was, for me, it was like a few things, and I don't know how it is for other people, but
Sure. Of course. Of course. Where were you at in your life when you were feeling this way?
I'm actually coming out of just a new phase of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's been going on?
It's a little fresh.
Mm.
Again, it was just like, it's that cycle, you know, when you
Yeah.
don't deal with it and you just move on from things and you
Mm.
don't fully deal with it, you'll go back into it.
Mm.
And so my thing was recently was I felt like I just didn't know who I was. Like I had been
Oof.
following people, not following people, but I never had to make my own decisions. I
Oh,
kind of just like go with the flow.
yeah.
And I'm in a place to make my own decisions. And that's very daunting. And I don't know
Mm.
how to listen to myself.
Yep.
And I have just been like feeling very uninspired by my full-time job,
Sure.
but unmotivated and unmotivated and unclear about my path in my what I really want to be working towards.
Yeah.
And so that all just kind of compiled to like, I feel disconnected. I don't know what I want.
Ugh.
And I'm also like not fulfilling my purpose. I don't have clarity of like
Ugh.
where I'm going, like
Yeah.
no clarity where I'm going. And
Ugh.
I think it's all for a reason because I coach other people and I work with
Sure.
other people to work through their traumas and like
Yeah.
break free from what they're going through. But I have never sipped my own medicine fully.
Oof. Oof.
So I tell people, I'm like, you got to do this every single day.
Yeah.
And I've had to turn the mirror and be like, are you willing to do that every day?
Right.
Like, are
Ooh, I just got
you?
chills. Yeah.
It's been crazy. So these past few months, I've really had to sip my own medicine and do what I've been telling people to do. And finally, I'm in a space where I'm feeling better. But it was honestly like,
Oof.
it was an awful experience. Like I was crying every
Oh,
day
yeah, of course.
and just questioning, like, I understand where people are at because I was really questioning, like,
Yeah.
why do I need to be here? Like, why am I here?
Right. And
What
that's
is why am I here? Like, I just feel like I've made so many mistakes in my life. Like, I feel like I shouldn't be here.
Mm.
And so I understand these people now
Yeah.
and how hard it is
Ugh.
to get yourself out of that negative mindset and that
Right.
cycle and that it's hard. And to
Right.
sit with yourself, I've really never fully, I've done it sometimes, you know, but I've never
Yeah.
done it like this where I really had to stick with it. And like,
Wow.
it was tough.
Yeah. Yeah, to really like sit in that uncertainty of what is my meaning? Why am I here on this world and what is my purpose?
Mm-hmm. And loving yourself too, like fully loving yourself no matter what.
Oof.
So things like that don't affect you as much, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that level of acceptance as humans that we have good and bad sides, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm constantly in this state where I'm like, yeah, I'm a good human. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you have these moments where you might not show up how you think you would want to. And having that bit of like, oh, yes, I am still human. And what it means to be human is to fail periodically, quite frequently, in fact, you know, and like, how do we have space for ourselves and enough self-love to recognize and give ourselves compassion when we have those moments? It's so hard.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like you said, like we fail.
All the
We
time.
fail and we can sit in that shame. And
Yep.
that's where I caught myself in like
Oh,
for months, I was just like, if I did this differently, I would be farther along. If I didn't hurt this person, if I didn't do this, and like,
oof.
dude, that shame and that regret and
Yeah.
that like going back to the past and being like, I wish I could change things, that can fucking kill people.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Yes. it can, right? I mean, staying in the past, I mean, that is something that is unchangeable.
Unchangeable.
Right? Like we coming back to like what is within our locus of control, right? So like really sticking the past and saying, you know, I did this and I wish I would have showed up in that way, but there is literally nothing you can possibly do to change that time. Right. And so it's hard when we get stuck in that cycle back there where we're like, I wish I would have done this. I wish. And like all the time beating ourselves up, having judgment about it, and then staying there in that judgment space rather than like, wow, I really fucked up. And now how do I learn from that to change in the future? I feel like that's such a big mind shift to like have enough self-compassion and space to recognize it and move, right?
Yeah.
Ugh, that is so hard.
It is heartening because there's literally nothing you can do to change the past, but you can, like, I think what I learned these past 2 months is like accept fully, like own it, like face it. Like I did this.
Yep.
I didn't do this. I didn't take advantage of this opportunity, or I hurt this person, or I did this stupid thing, and I accept that. And I take responsibility for my life now to learn from that and know that those things didn't make me feel good. So in the future, when an opportunity like that comes again, where I'm faced with I think I'm about to like go off the hinge. I might overdrink right now and like this could spiral. To stop myself before I even do that.
Yeah.
And you learn, like, I know that this doesn't make me feel good, so don't do it. And so it's just putting those reminders.
Yeah. And I mean, that is autonomy, right? Like that is the beauty also of what it means to be human, is to have this moment where, you know, some sort of stimulus is coming in and we're going to pause enough to decide how we want to react. That's what makes us human, this brain that we have, right? Where we are animals, yes, and we also have the ability to make executive decision making where you sit there and you say, you know what? I'm going to respond differently this time. And that's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way you just said that. It's like that executive, like you can take responsibility in that moment and take a pause, which we're not used to in society, but you can pause when you're faced with a decision, and instead of just going through an old pattern and just doing whatever's in front of you, being like, do I want to do this?
Yep.
If I do this, what is this going to do? Okay, I actually don't think I want to go out to the bar tonight. This is not going to be good for me.
Yes.
I'm just like, we can take responsibility and change.
Right, exactly. And then I think the important piece is like, how does it feel not going to the bar though, right? Like when you're sitting at home. Yeah, exactly. Your face. Yeah. That's the important piece. It's like, right? Like, I hate this bullshit about like this positive toxicness where people are like, yeah, you make the change and it feels great. And it's like, and it also sucks. Like, let's be really honest. It's a process of uncomfortability to get to that place where eventually it feels better and you're in this, you know, different patterns and things. But at first, it really sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. Oh my God. It sucks. Yeah. To like really have to think about your future and what you want and either take opportunities or don't. And then sit with yourself in that time of like, I'm not going to go do this thing. I'm going to sit here alone. And like, I found myself like craving like people and like, I even noticed myself like watching I never watch TV.
Sure.
And I noticed myself binging Netflix every night because I was avoiding.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to fill, okay, I used to fill it with going out with people. Now I'm filling it with like TV. And then finally one day I was just like, shut the fucking computer. You need to clearly face something like you're avoiding.
Oof.
And it's hard and it's so uncomfortable. And I had to sit with myself and like fidget and like try to journal and just like get angry. I'm like, I'm so fucking over this. I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just want to like scream.
Oof.
And I did. And I followed those instincts of like screaming and like just journaling it out. And like, it felt good. And I feel like I'm finally in a place where it's like, I'm not going to go do that. I'm not going to like do all these things that, and it's okay if I do them sometimes, but tonight I'm going to stay in and do this with myself because I've finally come to a place where like being with myself alone feels good.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm sure what a journey that has been, right? Coming to that
Yeah.
relationship with yourself where you love yourself enough to enjoy that company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. And I just want to say, like, to the people, like, it's not easy. And I understand, like, I still coach. I now feel like I'm a better coach, but
Sure.
I coach people for so long, not doing any of the work myself or feeling any of these things, like just completely avoiding and putting all of my time and effort just for other people. Like, I want to heal you. I'm not going to heal me.
Exactly.
And finally going through that on my own. I still am, you know, we always are.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I'm like, I can really tell people, like, I get it. I know it's hard, and like, you can do it though.
Certainly. Yeah, I feel like I notice it's how do we tune in enough to ourselves to notice when we get to that state and need that check in again? And I feel like that's what I'm trying to work on. Like, how can I recognize when I've gotten to like more of a dysregulated, stressed out state to know that I need to pause, you know? And sometimes I notice I start like reacting much faster. Like, text comes in, respond, email, respond, like, pah, pah, pah. And then I just like recognize that I am not here within my own body. I'm just reacting to everything versus slowing down enough to be present with myself, respond, choose how I want to show up. And it's like, yeah, how do we recognize enough to, before you get into that completely dysregulated state, to pause and come back to ourselves?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautifully put. Yeah. I think
I don't have answers. Yeah.
I think it's like we know our bodies.
True. Yep. That's a good place.
Not everybody. I think that's it's not self-awareness. And not everybody has it at first, because self-awareness can be scary, and I know that.
Yes.
And so self-awareness is scary, but when you have it and you're willing to accept, like, I don't feel good right now. I'm sick of my shit. I want to make changes. That's when you can move towards it. But it is that self-awareness.
Right. Exactly. Which is taking.
But our society is opposite. Like,
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's why so many people have a hard time with it, because we're not meant to pause. We're like, go, 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 go people. So I think that people don't even have the opportunity to realize it. It's like, okay, wake up, go to the gym, like, then go to work, and then come home and make dinner, and then watch TV, and then all of a sudden you're in bed. And you repeat the same thing the next day.
Yeah, and not even just that. On top of that, when I'm on the train or when I'm driving, I'm listening to something, and when I'm here, I'm scrolling, and then when I'm here waiting, I'm scrolling here, and it's like, whoa, where is your attention being directed? Because it's constantly with these new stimulus. And I mean, for me, like, just even taking off Instagram and social media off of my phone, so that when I am in the world having these moments of pause, that I don't go through just this like habitual pattern of scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Just even that small switch causes me to be much more in tune with myself, because yeah, typically those moments are just wasted. I would like to call that wasted. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you get something from scrolling, but like, it's just, what it does is it's kind of like the Netflix thing, where it's just kind of blocking you off. Yeah.
We're avoiding. It's drowning. And it's okay to do that stuff sometimes. I mean, we do have a lot going on in life. Like, so there are times where I watch TV and I'm like, I need this night to like not think. But yeah, I think it's in our bodies, you know, they're screaming at us, and we just have to believe it, and we have to see it, like, in not as just a medical thing. Like, if you're having like chronic stress and chronic pain in your body, look inward and see what's going on. Because I fully believe in that Western medicine has its place, and we need it, and we need to come together. But when you are dysregulated in life, your body's going to tell you. Your body's going to tell you through like your organs malfunctioning, like your digestive system malfunctioning, your hormones, your stress levels.
For sure.
It's going to show up in chronic pain, headaches.
Exactly.
All of it, and then more. If you don't deal with it, then diseases down the road. And that's our body telling us we're dysregulated.
Oh, for sure.
Slow down, come inward.
Yes.
And it's our willingness as people to be like, yes, I accept that, and I'm going to do something about it. But a lot of times, and this is no shame because I was that way, we're not willing to accept it and face it. We're just like, oh, it's a medical thing. I'm just going to go to the doctor.
Yeah, and it's tricky because, like, sometimes, yes, these things are very much so medical problems, and you never want to, like, let those, go by the side. So it's like, yes, and there are still a lot of things that are the result of your own mind-body connection, right? Even in psychology, we talk about this all the time, anxiety and stress, your increased cortisol levels change your body's homeostasis. It actually puts it out of homeostasis, right? You're in a different state, which will affect your digestive system, your stomach, your skin, all these things. I notice towards the end of my semester, every time when finals weeks come out, I just get break out all the way, and it's like, where is that coming from? It's all this different stress in my body that is changing how I am physiologically showing up in spaces. And so it's like, yeah, how can we be, and I'm feeling like, how can we be in better relationship with ourselves? I am someone that spends so much time, like, how can I be better in relationship with my partners, with my friends, with all these other people? And I devote all that energy to that. And how can we come back to be more connected to ourselves? It is a relationship that we have or don't have, like me as well, where I'd never had this relationship in the past. It would have been hard to sit with myself in silence, and connect and tune in. But how can we start to develop that and foster that? I think that's what self-love is, not taking a bubble bath. I think that's part of it, but like more of this relationship to yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. We can only have as good a relationship as we have, in my belief, and this is my opinion, and I see other opinions, but my belief is if my relationship with myself isn't good and positive and full, how am I supposed to have great relationships with other people?
For sure. Yes. Without a doubt. I don't think that is just your belief. I think that is 100% true, because what we see through relationships all the time is that we're playing out different scripts, narrative experiences, right? Whether that's from my family dynamics that taught me this is how you interact with people, toxic relationships that I have gone through that taught me this is how you show up in love in other ways. Like, if I have not learned how to connect back to myself and decide how I want to show up in the world, then I'm just going to be repeating what has been demonstrated before me. So yeah, I think it is so fundamental to have a good relationship with yourself first before you try and have good relationships with other people. But then I get into the space where people are like, well, don't date other people, until you have this perfect relationship with yourself. And it's like, that is also not accurate either. We can grow with people. We can learn with people. We are constantly in relationship with friends, family, and with people who we have romantic or sexual relationships with. And you can constantly learn in that state, but be doing that work actively to be with yourself and to continually be checking in and growing with yourself, I think is so key.
I agree. And it's all a balance, right? It's like, you can have really wonderful relationships around you, but don't avoid yourself. Like, make sure that you're balancing your time with other people with your time to yourself.
Yep, exactly. And even I've been noticing this with like my life with school and the podcast and other pieces and all this time that it takes up, where a lot of this time is spent alone, right? Like, I'm editing this podcast, I'm alone, I'm recording, all this sort of stuff. But it's like that time alone is kind of like the Netflix time. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I get it, like it is time focused on something else, but it's not so much checking in with myself. It's more of like a production doing time versus being still and just listening to where my heart and mind is at. So it's like, I could be alone all the time and still not really be alone with myself. And it's like,
yeah, there's a difference between like, oh, I'm alone, but I'm working on all of these amazing things, but it's like, you need to take the time alone of like slowing down to journal or like take a walk, like meditate, breathe, like something to reinvigorate like all the effort that you're putting into other things.
Yeah. I feel like this is also something, I talk about this all the time, but I think it is a huge piece. Like, growing up with the internet, I don't know how old you are, but like growing up with the internet at our fingertips, just the amount of stimulus that we have had and become accustomed to. Like, I have a hard time going out and just going for a walk without music in my ears or a podcast going or something else. Like, I have just a hard time just being quiet, listening.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's like that stage of growing up with the internet and just like the constant, there's so much information out there. And we are such like, our society is such a doer society that like, I'm sure with what you're into and what, because I find myself too, I'm always listening to podcasts, like I'm taking a walk, listening to podcasts. And like, well, this is okay because I'm learning something really helpful. But like, at what point are we like integrating that what we're learning? Like that's what I went through. I was like, I have learned so much. I have thousands and thousands of hours of schooling now. What did I actually integrate? And now that I'm having more silent moments, I feel like that my brain is finally being like working it in and having the time to do it versus like being overwhelmed with all the information.
Definitely. Yeah, that integrative piece of, just not listening, but actually applying what's actually going to stick with me. What am I actually focusing on and directing my focus towards to make sure I'm incorporating into my life. I started doing morning pages. Have you heard of this, The Artist Way?
No.
It's this book by Julia Cameron about the artist way, where like trying to connect everyone back to their inner artist and their level of creativity. And one of the big things that I took from that was she talked about this practice of doing morning pages where you get up and you write 3 pages every day just for yourself. You just do it. And so I've been doing that since May of last year. So almost for a year, and well, not, I still got a few months, but like, wow, has that process just changed me to wake up every day and be like, this is what's on my heart. This is for no one else but me. And here it is. And like slowing down to write 3 pages, you kind of, after a page and a half, you get that point where you're like, okay, well, what else am I feeling right now? And like that check-in, that it slows me down. Yeah. Or sometimes I'll notice that like if I'm going through something intense and emotional, I'll want to write 4 pages, 5, and I'm like, oh, how interesting. I have so much weight I'm holding right now that it's just pouring out. And it's been such kind of like a mirror, like you said earlier, where you're like, turn that mirror back on yourself and you're like, are you doing that work? And like, here's my mirror of my pages. And sometimes I'll go back and read them from like a month before and just be like, wow, interesting. You were in that space. Now you're here, and try to like have this more full holistic sense of who I am and where I'm at and what I'm doing. Yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful practice. That's hard.
Thank you.
Good for you. A year. That's, because there's days where you might be like a page in and be like, all right,
exactly.
What else? I'm gonna just go get my cup of coffee now. And it's like, no. Like there's definitely more. There's definitely more. You just have to open up and be vulnerable and dig.
Right. Yeah. Or focus. Like maybe if I have that extra, emotional space, what can I be thankful for? What can I pull in now? Like, ooh, let's change this, instead of like constantly through that growth of like, what more do I want to dig? It's like, okay, I want to focus now on like how beautiful it is outside. Yeah. How much I have going on. Like, oh, and so I try to pull that in too. And so, that process of like just sitting with our brain more and recognizing that we have the power to direct our attention. I love the metaphor. I think I had heard, I don't know where I heard this, but thinking about your mind kind of like a TV. And when you're kind of stuck in one state, you really have the ability to change the channel. Like I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling sad. I'm like, okay, well, let's also think about what we're, on channel 2, gratitude. What do I have that's going on that's good? And you really can watch your head flip between 2 different states depending on what you choose to put your focus on and direct your attention towards. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and it's hard. That's like such a consistent practice, because I realized these past few months just being in that like deep state of depression, like I knew I could change the channel. I had the awareness that I could change the channel, and I could not change the channel some days. Like I could not, and I knew how to do it because I teach people how to do it. Of course. Write a mantra, start thinking about this, have something to look at for gratitude, go take a walk outside.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is fucking hard. Yes. And it was consistent. Like I had to consistently recognize it, accept it, not push it away. I think that's a big thing too, is just like, we can't just immediately change it. There's something underneath it. If you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed or you're feeling whatever, there is something underneath that needs to be uncovered. And that needs to be uncovered and accepted.
Yes.
And then we can change the channel.
And
I think that's what I had to learn, was I had been in this state so many times, but so many times I pushed it away and just fueled myself into other things. And finally having the space of waking up one day and just being like, I'm now 29 years old. How many more years am I going to wake up and feel this way? Like, it's time to face it. It's time to face it. And I remember just sitting in bed in the morning and being like, I am not okay. Yeah. I am depressed. Like, I don't feel like I'm in a good place. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, I'm so inauthentic. All this showing up to be this bubbly person, like, it's not who I currently am right now. Yeah. And I remember, like, it took me weeks to change the channel. It was hard. Yeah. But we can do it. Like, we do have the agency to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell me more about, like, what those first steps were? I've always been an anxious person and experienced a ton of anxiety, less depression. So I'm just so curious, like, what were those first steps that you feel like got, like, that momentum moving towards that direction?
I think it was simple things. What do I know feels good? What do I know that makes me feel good? Yeah. Especially anxiety is overactive. So you want to be less, you want to do less. Yeah, depression is underactive. You want to activate a little bit more to help. Yeah. So for me, it was, I know that moving my body makes me feel really good. Getting out there sweating. I know that nourishing my body with, like, good food feels good.
Yes, it does.
And I know that meditation, as hard as it is going to feel good, and getting outside. Yeah. So I started with those simple things, and it sounds like a lot, but I started very simply. Like, I knew, okay, for the gym, I need to follow a program to make it easy. I don't have to think about it. So I signed up for a program following that.
Sure. Yep.
Meditation, I started off with 3 minutes.
Yep. Basic.
Because I knew I couldn't handle more than that.
Yep.
Breath work, again, I started off with a minute because I knew I couldn't handle more than that. And when it came to food, I made it very, very easy. Like, just simple. And then just doing that, staying consistent, and then going from there. Wow. Adding on if I could, when I had the space.
Yeah, I love that. I love that simplicity, not overthinking this, just what feels good to me. And that's going to be different to each person. And as you're saying that, I literally have this, I have this Post-it note on the wall behind you, and it says, what to do when you're sad.
Yes!
And mine says, get high and dance to her in a past life, which is a Maggie Rogers. Read a book and let your mind digest ideas, because I feel like sometimes I go kind of catabolic and I try to eat up myself mentally. Yeah. So I'm like, let's read something else. Let's get my ideas elsewhere. Reread your journal and ground yourself in yourself and the fluctuations of time. Watch a sad movie and release your emotions. Ooh, yeah, I've watched a good, like, 7 Pounds. That just made me cry, Will Smith, and I needed that once. And then fresh air always heals. Yeah. I don't know. I probably have more.
That's amazing. I have one on my phone. It's
reminders and goals. Yes. Yep.
And it's...
Yeah, tell me yours.
Nature. I have nature walks makes me feel better. Yep. Teaching always makes me feel better because it's my purpose. Stop just overthinking and go. Yeah. Pause before moving on something. Walks in nature feels good. Yeah, staying committed. Check. And working out. Like, that's so funny that you have it is. I think that's a huge important thing is knowing what makes you feel good and having that reminder. You have a sticky note, I have it in my phone, like put it somewhere so when you're feeling in a negative state, anxious, depressed, whatever it is, you're like, I know what makes me feel better. And it's hard to do it. Like, it's hard to be like, I know that walking outside makes me feel better, but I don't want to do it. Yep. But
Right. But sometimes like, what the fuck are we waiting for? Do you know what I mean? Like, why are we waiting to want it? Like, I have a hard time with that, where, like, when I get super anxious and stressed and the idea of taking a shower feels like too much work. And I just go, I cannot do this right now. But it's like, wait, I don't have to want to do it. I can actually just do it.
I think there's two things that I've learned that come away from that. It's your anxiety, again, is trying to tell you something. So if you're feeling anxious, like, take the time to journal and figure out what's making me anxious. Because I think what happens, especially with anxiety, is that you have too much. There's something going on.
Yeah.
And therefore making dinner, walking outside to get the mail, taking a shower, making your bed, it's all going to feel very daunting.
Yes. Too much.
So you have to peel back the layers of, why am I anxious right now? What am I doing too much of? What do I need to balance?
Yeah.
And then sitting with yourself in that moment, and then remembering that, like, I deserve to be happy.
Yep.
I deserve to feel good. And then getting up and doing it.
Yep. Yep. And I have no one else to do that for other than myself, right? Like, there is no one pressuring me to do these things. I get to choose how I want to show up in this world and what I want to do. And in that process of creating that relationship with myself, I can then show up better for other people, which is such like a beautiful, I don't even know what it is, reinforcing cycle, right? Like the more you love yourself, you show up with your friends, you're able to better love them, they're able to better love you, you continually love yourself, and it just like keeps going in this practice, I feel like, of just learning to love ourselves, and not in some shitty positive toxicness of self-love, like the fullness of that being the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And seeing all of that with love.
Love and listening to yourself. Like, I think it's funny, like, this is like what I tell people sometimes is that, you know, when a friend calls, you're so willing to sit with them on the phone and work through whatever it is, or they call you, can you come over? I'm having a really bad day. And you sit next to them, or you sit on the phone, and you're listening to them, and you're hugging them, and you're giving them love, and you're making that space to listen to what they're going through and give them love. But ourselves, when we are feeling those states, when we're depressed, when we're anxious, when we're feeling hurt, XYZ, we're sometimes not willing to sit with ourselves and listen. And I think that's the difference. It's like, we have to show up for ourselves, because I mean, I know adulthood is pretty tough. Like, our friends are not always available anymore. Like, I don't know, like, there are times when my friends text me and they're going through it, and I'm like, I don't have the time to answer you right now.
I know.
I just don't. And
I know.
Those are the times where it's like, you have to know how to sit with yourself and talk to yourself like you would talk to yourself as a friend.
Right, exactly. And this is reminding me a lot of that inner child work where people say, like, imagine yourself as a child. Like, what would you say to a child? You would not berate them.
No.
How dare you feel sad about your life? You don't even know what it's like to be an adult. You know, like, we would just never even do that talk. Yet to ourselves, where it can be so easy to just do that. Or
avoid.
Yeah,
exactly. Push away. I don't want to deal with you right now. Get away from me.
Right. And would you say that to a child who's crying in front of you?
No, people do, and y'all need to work on yourself if you do. But no, and we need to. I think that's the biggest thing, is really like, okay, you're anxious. Okay, Nat, why are you feeling anxious? Like, literally have a conversation with yourself, or journal, and just, why are you feeling anxious right now? What's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't really know. That's okay. Like, that's okay. Why don't we just sit for a second? Like, why don't you just like cry or let it out? Or like, I'll give you a hug, and you're talking to yourself, and it's beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I feel like I've been really taking away from my like studies as a psychologist in training is the different areas of your brain that are active when you're in these different states. When you're in this survival state, very stressed out, we know from neuroanatomy and scans that you're actually activating a different part of the body, your brain, than when you're in an emotional state. And then when you're in an executive state, those are activating different parts of your body. And so we have to have acceptance for the fact that currently where I'm at, my brain is activating a different part. I am not using the normal part that I use in the frontal lobe, right? It is in a different spot. And so how can we have compassion? Because literally it's a different part of the brain, right? And we're going to work through that to get back to our executive states, but recognizing, having more compassion for the fact that like you're very much so in a different aspect of your brain. And children specifically have a hard time going between those different states. And so, you know, us as adults, we're still in that practice of, how do we co-regulate? How do we recognize where we're at and what emotional state we're in? It's a beautiful practice, I think.
And I love that you just brought, I love, like neuroanatomy and all of that stuff. I think that it's so important for people to understand that. And I specifically like I have a nonprofit working with trauma survivors, and what a lot of people, what's really important to understand for people is what you were just saying, is that our body, if it's in those heightened states for a long period of time, that part of your brain is just always on, that fight or flight, that like overthinking, it's that stress, it's always on. And it's hard to learn how to repattern it, but we can. We have the agency to change that, because like you just said, there are two different parts of our brain, and we can activate different parts based on when we need them. That fight or flight, we need that sometimes.
We do.
But unfortunately, sometimes if people experience trauma and they're stuck in that state, it's a detriment to the body.
Yes, it is.
And then we have that executive side that we can get to, where we're more able to like think clearly and like make better choices.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And I think part of what this whole conversation that we've been talking about is how to get between those two, right? Like, how do we have the self-love? What are the practices? What are the different things we can focus on, and the work that we can do to kind of get closer to that state, and recognizing the fullness of that difficult work. It is work, right? But also
it is work. Yeah,
the rewarding nature of it, you know, to come into that state of your executive where you're a little bit more calm, peaceful, responding rather than reacting.
Yeah, it's rewarding, and it takes time, and it's not a quick fix. Like it's not a red pill that you're going to pop and you're going to feel better in 20 minutes. It's like, it's going to take time, but it's so rewarding, because would you rather know what you need and like be able to really like heal yourself and take maybe a year to, maybe it takes like a good amount of time to get you just into self-regulation and then move on? Or would you rather just live in that heightened state for the rest of your life, relying on things outside of you to fix the inward?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've been in therapy for 4 years, and I probably will continue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God,
yeah, exactly. Where it's like, this is probably never going to end. Like, how can I, and I think that's healthy to have that space and that container where I can continually be asking, like, how can I re-regulate, relearn, and develop the better tools to do this? And I think, I'll plug therapy left and right always. Step one, if, you know, everything. How do you show up better with yourself? How do you show up better with your relationships? How do you show up better at work? All these other things is yourself. Let's start there, right? And therapy, coaching, all these various aspects that can start that work, I think is step one.
Yeah. Therapy, I think, is huge. 4 years, that's amazing. I think like when you think of therapy, it's just that open space to talk and be vulnerable. And there's so many times you don't have that. And even if we do have friendships where we have that, like I was saying earlier, like your friends are not always available.
Exactly.
And so having somebody that like literally has to listen to you because you're paying them is so helpful. And just having it for life is just helpful, just to talk through like, this is what I'm going through this week. I just need to process this with somebody else and not just myself every day. It's huge.
Exactly. It's such a unique relationship where you can just pour so much into that container and not have to feel this sense of burdening someone or all these other pieces that you might feel where you're with your friends. And you know, when you're with your friends and other pieces, it's a reciprocal relationship. You always want to make sure that it's feeling even in some long, you know, scheme of whatever your relationship is, versus having this opportunity to just be, this is fully what I am, and I'm going to show up and dump all of it onto you and trust that you're listening and caring for me, right? And my therapist always reminds me, it goes both ways. Like, she learns a lot from me, and I'm sure, you know, the same thing where I learn from people that I work with and that sort of stuff. But like, it is just such a container. And I love that empty container that you have that I'll hold for that person, you know, to be there.
It is beautiful. And I think the biggest thing with therapy too is you can go to somebody for life, but you don't have to rely. It's not a reliance on they're going to fix me. The thing is that you know how to fix yourself. It's just nice to have, you can't do it all alone. You can't do it all alone. It's nice to have somebody to talk to and just be like, I have a big decision on my plate. Or you know what? I did this week, and I'm really fucking excited that I did this this week, and I know you're going to listen. So it's just that. It's just someone to bounce ideas and things off of, like talk. Because sometimes we don't notice when we're repeating something.
Yep.
It's so much hard. I mean, this is why it was easier for me to work with people than it was to work with myself.
Sure.
I could see their pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I'm outside.
Exactly.
But being inside, it's so hard to recognize your patterns. And I've noticed in my therapy, she's like, but this is your pattern. And so you're doing, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep.
So having that outside perspective is so helpful.
Exactly. Which is, yes, completely. And which is why, as someone becoming a psychologist, I cannot be the therapist for the closest people in my life because I am too close. I am too involved. I do not have that step back perspective to like hear fully exactly what your therapist is doing, right? Where they're like, oh, I'm noticing this, you know, I'm too close to provide that level of therapeutic space, which is so healing. So yeah, it's definitely it's a perspective that I think is so beautiful. And one of the metaphors I relate it to is like coffee. I am not dependent on my coffee, right? If I wanted to, I could stop drinking it. But boy, do I love that it wakes me up in the morning. It makes me feel full and all these sort of things. And if I needed to stop therapy, I could. But I think I'm more productive with a little bit of therapy in my, in my week.
Yeah, I agree. Same. Exactly. I love going. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, this has been a very lovely and insightful conversation about self-love. Yeah. There is one question I ask everyone on the podcast, and it is, what is one thing that you wish other people knew was more normal?
Oh, God, I've been thinking about that. What I've gone through is I feel like I've started over. And I think it's normal to feel like you're going backwards and maybe even go backwards.
Yes.
And believe and trust that it's going to take you 2 steps forward. I think that's more normal than we have such a society of the pressure to be successful. And be at certain places in our life. Like, I'm 29. In my head, I should own a house. My business should be fully up and running, and it's not. In this year, I had to take a huge step back and come back to a place I didn't think I was ever going to have to come back to again.
Right.
And that was so hard for me to accept. That was part of like the reason I was in that spiral. Like, I'm back in this fucking place again. I'm starting over. What the fuck? And it's normal. And it's better to start over than to keep plowing through a mess. In something you're not happy with. It's much more normal. And I think for me and for like people out there who like have a hard time, like all I cared about was what other people were thinking of me in this place. Even a move, I made a huge move last year that I was not in my heart ready to make. And I made it. Because I told other people I was going to do it. And now I'm back starting over. And wishing, and that was part of my regret. Like, I was like, I wish I didn't fucking move.
Damn.
And so I've had to start over, and I've had to really let my ego go and let other people's thoughts of me go, and just know that this step back, I need to take advantage of and like go inward.
Right.
And keep focusing on like that there's a light out there.
Yeah. As you're speaking, what's coming to mind is the saying that growth is not linear.
No.
Yeah, right? Like that's it. Like it is not linear. It is cul-de-sacs, U-turns, re-navigating all the time.
Yeah, and it's scary, and it's really scary. But yeah, you do what's in your heart, and like even if it means starting over, it's normal to do that. I would rather move home with my parents right now than like be trudging through.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Accepting when you need help. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. You shared so much vulnerability with your own journey, and I'm sure so many people are gonna benefit from just hearing this dialogue between the two of us of the realness that is self-love, right? Yeah. Thank you for having this container. I feel like so many people need to hear about this stuff. Like, we're all struggling, and it's okay. Yes.
And exactly. Just be fucking vulnerable, people, with yourself, because I'm telling you, it's going to feel so much better. As soon as I accepted that I was depressed, and then I started telling people I'm not doing well, I started to feel better because I wasn't faking it every single day of my life. And it was hard and it was scary. And I've cried in front of so many people that I've like never would have thought I'd cry in front of. But at least I feel connected to myself and connected to others versus this fake thing persona I was doing.
Hell yeah, there is so much strength in vulnerability. So much. Yeah, and I hope I stay just as soft, right? Especially like becoming a psychologist, supposed to quote unquote have the answers to the human experience. I'm like, nope. I got nothing. I'm on this journey with you. Like, what are we doing? Let's co-work together to see how we can be better in this world, you know?
And that's going to make you authentic.
I hope so, you know.
Why would you want to sit across from a therapist who has never been through anything or isn't willing? Then they don't know. That's how I was. Like, I wasn't dealing with my shit, and I realized that, like, I wasn't really fully healing people because that energy exchange wasn't good. Like, I wasn't dealing with my shit, telling other people to deal with theirs.
Shit.
And now that I'm dealing with mine, I feel like I'm going to be a better coach and a better therapist. And so you will too.
Yeah, showing up fully human.
I love it. I'm excited for your journey, and you're going to be just having this space, you know, you're going to do amazing with what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, and you get to shape me, right? Whoever you pick next shapes me as a human. It's such a weird process where I'm like, who do you want me to talk to? And because it expands my perspective every time I have a guest and they get to pick. It changes me. So it's very fun to be open to this. Yeah. Is there anywhere you want to plug for people that might be really resonating with you, where they can find out more and connect with you?
Sure. I'm a little, I took a break.
Healthy.
To deal with my own shit these past few months. And I'm finally starting everything back up actually this month. So you can find me on Instagram, Natalie Rose Onaki. That's my LLC coaching. And then I also have a nonprofit. It's to break the cycle of assault and abuse and sexual assault by providing people with the tools to heal themselves and really break that cycle. And that's called the Mother Tree Foundation. So on Instagram, it's at the Mother Tree Foundation if anybody wants to.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you. Your energy and your fullness and your presence.
Thanks, you too. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Conversation. Yeah. What a good way to start the week.
Seriously, happy Monday.
Yeah, I'm like, hell yeah, let's get after it. If you enjoyed today's episode, then leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a part of the Anarchist community, then follow us on Instagram or nominate a guest for the show by sending in a letter to modernanarchypodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.